All right, so today is our second lesson of the equations unit to multiply and divide to solve equations. All right, so equations must have how many solutions? One solution. One solution to the variable that will make it true. All right, so let's look at 5x equals 15. What value for x, we could do this pretty easily, mental math. What value for x would make the equation true? 3. Does everybody agree that 5 times 3 is 15? All right, can I just decide one day that 5 times 4 equals 15? No, that's not how math works, okay? It's consistent, it's absolute. All right, so we're still going to use our opposite operations to solve equations. And your goal is to get the variable by itself on one side of the equation. All right, and do you guys remember what a reciprocal is? I think you learned this before my class. What is a reciprocal? Yes, so let's write an example of a reciprocal. If I had 3/4, the reciprocal of that would be 4/3. Okay, now if I were to multiply reciprocals together, we also call these multiplicative inverses, where everything cross reduces to 1. Okay, we learned multiplicative inverse in unit 1. It's been a couple weeks. All right, so reciprocal is a flipped fraction. All right, so how does this work in helping me solve equations? That's a what's the kind of question you ask and you're not really looking for an answer? Rhetorical. I kept wanting to say reciprocal because it was, similar, and my brain's a little foggy today. All right, so I need to first ask myself, what operation is connected to my variable? What operation do you see there? Division. Okay, so with division, what's the opposite of division? Multiplication. So here's where reciprocal is going to help us. I want to flip. All right, does everybody agree that an understood 1 goes in front of the x?
Yes.
I want to flip everything, thank you, everything but the variable, because I want the variable to remain on this side. So I flip it and I multiply. All right, by 3/1. Now my 3's can cross reduce, so do my 1's, that's understood, and all I have left is x. But my rule says, my property of equality says, whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other side. So -6 times +3. Be careful about your signs here. Is my answer positive 18 or negative 18?
Negative.
Why? Because there's one negative. So I don't think I heard anybody say because -6 is bigger, which that's good because that's the wrong rule. Okay, there's one negative. That's an odd number. So it's a negative answer. Okay, -18. All right, I want you to try to do the next one on your own. X/5 equals 2. Do it the same way we just did, guys. All right, so you need to show your work the exact same way. What'd y'all do? Not divide, but multiply. I think that's what you meant. So multiply, because it was division. Multiply both sides by 5. What did you guys get?
10.
X equals 10. Raise your hand if you got 10. Did you get 10? All right, we're doing good. Okay, so now let's look at the next two. Okay, so I'm trying to give you different scenarios that you would see on your homework assignment tonight. All right, so -a equals -24. What do you notice that looks a little different about this one?
No fraction.
Okay, no fraction. What else? Don't. Okay, negative. All right. A is already by itself, or it kind of looks like it. But here's my rule. Okay, so here's my rule. That was some really good feedback, guys. All right, I cannot have a negative connected to my variable. I also know that if there's no number in front of it, what is there?
1.
An understood 1. Okay, so I'm going to have -1a equals -24. All right, now this might seem kind of obvious, but you still have to go through the steps, right? So How is -1 connected to A? What operation? Multiplication. So what's the opposite of multiplication? Division. Okay? So divide both sides by -1. Well, I know any number divided by 1 is the number itself, but will it be positive or negative? What do you guys think? Positive, why? There's 2 negatives, and that's even. Okay, so A equals positive 24. Okay, positive 24. All right, now the next problem, okay, one thing that we notice, do you see that the variable comes after the equal sign? Okay, now we don't love that when that happens because it's almost like we're having to read the equation backwards. It's not a big deal with equations, but it is a big deal with inequalities. So we're going to practice rewriting the equation with the variable coming first, okay? That means that everything that's on one side of the equation has to stay there, okay? So I'm going to say -4.5x, okay? Now everything that was on the other side of the equation has to stay there as well. So -4.5x equals 18. -4.5x equals 18. All right. Now I can solve this the same way that I have been solving. Emily, what do you think you need to do to both sides to get x by itself? What would you need to do? Yeah, divide by what? Super close, but what do you want to take with you? Yes, the negative. Very good. So don't overlook the negative, all right? You've got to take the negative with you if there's a negative number connected to x. Okay, so divide both sides by -4.5. Now, this is going to take a little bit of division off to the side, okay? Not a huge deal, but we're going to need to do 18 divided by 4.5. Okay, 18 divided by 4.5. Can I have a decimal in my divisor? Nope. So what do? I bump my decimal over, but now I have to bump my decimal over in my dividend and add a 0. Okay, so 45 would go into 180 about how many times? You can divide your leading digit to give you a guess. 4 goes into 18 about 4 times. 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, so let's try 4. 20, and that's going to be 180. Don't you love it when it works out like that? Okay, so let me ask you this. Is it going to be +4 or -4? It will be -4. Why? Because there was only one negative that you were dividing here. 4.5 was negative and 18 was positive. So -4. All right, now on example 2, I hope you guys aren't too disappointed, but we're only going to do 2 of these, okay? Instead of doing all 4. I know. I hate to let you guys down like that. But listen, here's why. Because chapel day class is a little shorter and I want to make sure we have time to open up the homework. Okay, so let's do these 2. Now, we have a fraction connected to our variable. I want you guys to be careful with this. By multiplication. This means 4/5 times x. Okay? So, what my rule says is that I must divide by whatever's connected to x. So, I'm going to show you what that looks like. All right? So, if I divide, I'm going to just do it underneath like I normally do. If I divide by 4/5, all right, let me write this a different way. 4/5 divided by 4/5. What are your rules for dividing fractions? KFC. So would you agree that this second fraction needs to be flipped and multiplied? Okay? So instead of writing it out like this, I need you to understand why we are going to, so you can erase it if you've already written it. That is why we are going to flip it and multiply. But I need you to understand when we do that, we're actually dividing it. Does that make sense? Because dividing would make me flip it and multiply. All right, now look what happens. And this is great, right? Everything cross reduces. My 5s cross reduce and my 4s cross reduce. And all I have is x. But is my answer -8? No. What did I forget to do? Yes, multiply the other side by what? Times 5/4. Okay? Now, do I just want to multiply it? -8 times 5? Do I want to find an LCD? Do I need an LCD? No, I'm multiplying. I heard it, cross reduce. So you want to cross reduce what you can to make it easier to multiply. -8, guys, look up here for a minute. -8, when you reduce it, do not forget to keep it negative, okay? So if you cross reduce a negative, you have to keep it negative. Otherwise, you're going to mess up your sign and your answer. What's -2 times +5? -10. All right, so x equals -10. And that's my answer. All right, so now you're going to go down 1, okay? -3/2z equals -6. What is different about this equation versus the last one? The fraction is negative. So what do you think you need to multiply by? The negative reciprocal, okay? The negative, take that negative with you to the other side. All right, I'm going to pause here. I want you guys to come up with your own answer and compare it with a neighbor. I'm going to walk around and help you guys too. Okay, so times by 2, -2/3. All right, I put it in parentheses to separate because it was negative. All right, but now you can see everything cross reduces. Okay, so now z equals, now multiply the other side by -2/3. Did you guys cross reduce?
No.
All right, if you got it wrong, make sure you're figuring out where you went wrong, okay? -2, guys, the sign is so important. What's -2 times -2? +4. +4. Okay? All right. Good job. Okay, like I said, we'll skip the next 2. Okay, how do I tell? Do you guys remember when we had this question the other day? How do I tell if 2 equations are equivalent? How do I tell? You solve them. So I can't just say, oh, well, this one's -4 and this one's 24, so it's not. No, I need to solve for m on both. Go ahead and do that. This is more practice. Did you multiply the first one by what? 3/2 times 2/3 equals -4/1 times 3/2. All right, so we want to get that fraction to cancel. We cross reduce. M equals -6. Did you guys get -6? Yes. All right, good job. -4m equals 24. What would I divide both sides by? -4. M also equals -6. Yes, they are equivalent. All right, and there's your proof. Because m equals -6. No, we got to do the, this is easy. Let's just kind of read these together. All right, what's the opposite of subtracting 12? Adding 12. What's the opposite of multiplying by 9? Dividing by 9. What's the opposite of adding 6? Subtracting 6. What about subtracting 10? Adding 10. All right, y'all want that on your test? Yes. All right, very good. Okay, example 3. I forgot the little thermometer thing, so you do have to look up here. Okay, now, yeah, there is. It's on the back. Okay, so the temperature, let's read this. The temperature at midnight is shown on the temperature gauge, okay? The temperature decreases 4.5 degrees Fahrenheit each hour. When will the temperature be 29 degrees Fahrenheit? Now, this one's a little trickier, okay? Now, you are setting up an equation. You need to start with an equal sign. You still need to measure, all right, some kind of a final or a total amount. Total kind of throws off what we're doing here, though, okay? I need you to think about this. You need some kind of, again, a final amount. If the temperature starts at 56 degrees and you need it to end at 29 degrees, you must subtract them to figure out how much it dropped. Okay? And the reason you need to figure out how much it dropped is because you have to figure out how many hours it will take to end up at 29 degrees Fahrenheit when it decreases 4.5.
Miss Kimber,
Yes.
can I get Zoe Richburg, please, to M15 for math testing?
Yes, ma'am.
And then Michael Sweat.
All right, so this is going to give me the difference, which is needs to be my total, okay, that I'm dividing by. Now, if I'm decreasing by 4.5 degrees, is that going to be positive or negative? Negative 4.5 times H. Okay? Now, what is 56 minus 29? It's 27. So, negative 4.5 H equals negative, now I'm going to tell you why, negative 27. Because from 56 down to 29, it decreased by 27 degrees. Does that make sense? Okay. So because the temperature decreased, that's why I make it negative. 56 minus 29 is positive. Does that make sense? But I make it negative because that temperature is dropping. All right. Now it's just a simple divide both sides by negative 4.5. Okay. And when I do that division, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you because we're running out of time. Negative 27 divided by negative 4.5 is 6 hours. Now, I do not want you to call out the answer. This is not your answer. Don't call it out. I want you to try to go back and read the problem and tell me what the answer is on your paper. Okay, try to do that. This is not your answer, but this is what you needed to know to find your answer. All right, Kylie, what'd you come up with?
Wouldn't it be 12 plus 6, so it'd be 6 a.m.
It is 6 a.m. She said midnight is 12 o'clock. When I add 6 hours, it's 6 a.m. Did you guys get that? No. 6 a.m. No. 6 a.m. Okay? Do you understand why we subtracted 56 minus 29? Because we had to figure out, okay, this is how many degrees it dropped. Now I can divide it by how much it's dropping per hour to see how many hours it would take. Guys, this stuff takes practice, okay? It just takes practice, but we'll get there. We'll get it. All right, that's everything you need to know for today's lesson.